All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Friday Mastermind. We do not have Master Todd Bookspan today because he is at some personal development.
The
I don't
wealth
know
class
exactly
in
where's
Dallas.
where's he at?
It's a wealth class. I'm actually super jealous. He's been in this program for 3 years, and the guy's phenomenal. So he happens to be in my backyard,
Hmm.
and it's a building wealth
Is
class.
it? It's not Get Wealthy. It's
No, it's with an author from. It's not Be Your Own Banker, but it's a program that he's in that he met through Be Wealthy.
Got it. Well, here's what I do know. I know he's getting smarter about how to build wealth for himself and his family, and he's getting smarter on how to bring that back into this community. And one of the pillars to a modern mortgage professional is money. They know how to make money, they know how to save money, they know how to invest money, and they know it so well that they can teach it. So, Deborah, anything you want to say before we bring on today's special guest?
Just we got 1 week left until we're officially at halftime, and would love to hear from you guys that are on right now of maybe a 1, 3, or 5 of how your first half has gone so far this year. So
So,
5 being awesome, it's great, you're hitting your numbers, and 1 like you're on the struggle bus. So let us
yeah. Well, why don't we make two you're on the struggle bus and
know.
one you're
Okay.
just completely failing.
Yeah,
So,
you're
uh,
off the bus. You're
yeah.
dragging.
So, yeah. And by the way, we'd love to get a few of you giving us a score. You know, 1 through 5. 5, you are you're surpassing your goals. 5 is surpassing your goals. 4 is on target. And so there we go. So guys, this is the first time we've had Chris Lamm on today's call. He was referred to me about a year ago by Jeremy Forcier. So he is a core coach. He is a top producing manager. We're going to find more about just what he leads and how he leads. But I mean, anybody that's doing over 50 million a year in production, who's also a coach, who's also a leader, is killing it. So, what's up, Chris? Good to have you here, brother.
It's great to be here. Happy Friday, everybody. I love what you guys do, and it's an honor. Appreciate you.
Yeah,
Dave,
yeah,
I feel like we need to just call out the professionalism. Like, look at his setup, his mic quality, his lighting. Like,
Mm.
this is when you know you're dealing with a pro. Good job, Chris.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you why I did this. I believe in being live and local. So first and foremost, I do believe. I don't know how you said it earlier, Dave, but it was great. You really need to win your local market. But I also, during the pandemic and over the last 7 years, with so many people migrating out of California, there was so many times where I had to refer my clients out of state. So I made it a goal to start doing loans in every state. And I believe in meeting people face to face. That's where relationship can really be built. Human connection is so important. But we can't do that with everyone. So with Zoom, with a good microphone, I was like, what's the next best thing to being face to face? So this is why I did this. And it helps a lot. When we're connecting with clients, if they can hear you better and see you better, I have found it does help a lot.
So by the way, did you say the word live and local? I
I
believe
did.
in being live and local. So first of all,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever heard those two words put together like that. And I love that because I do talk a lot about, what's happening. Like,
Mhm.
guys, not what Rocket cannot do and what Rocket can do. And for all the real estate agents, it's what Zillow cannot do and what Zillow can do. And so I really love that idea because it is winning locally. You need to
Yeah.
win your database, you need to win locally, but it's also you got to think local is not just in person. Sometimes and local, you've got people moving out of state. You've got people moving from somewhere else into yours. So I
Hmm.
love that live and local. When did you start going live and local, and how long have you had this just completely polished, professional, incredible live and local experience that we're seeing right now?
I really upgraded sort of my Zoom experience in 2021. So it's probably been a couple years now. I always had a decent camera, but we just, during the pandemic, there was so many people that wanted to meet on Zoom. So it would have been earlier than 2021. And I just, I track the data. And I know for me that if I'm meeting with a borrower or if a loan officer that I coach is meeting with a borrower face to face, their chances of converting that person to a client is 70%. If they do it over the phone, it's like 15%, because I mean, you can do, there's a lot of people that are amazing on the phone. I'm pretty good on the phone, but it's not ever going to replace if you can meet someone face to face. So we started doing Zoom during the pandemic, and we started tracking it. And although it's not as good as meeting someone face to face, if you have a good setup, you've got pictures of your family, and you can connect with them through Zoom, you have a much higher chance of keeping that client, even if they're, all the way across the country. So we've been doing it long enough now to know that it really works. Of course, I love to meet people face to face. But if we can't, my team demands that we meet with Zoom. And if we have clients that won't meet on Zoom, we send them an email and teach them how to do it, because we have found that the chances of us keeping that client when rates are moving all around are so much lower, that if we can't get them to commit to Zoom, there's a great chance that we won't be able to give them the experience they want, and we won't keep them. So that's why we do it.
Do you
Love.
get any friction when you're, because I'm sure there's some loan officers listening right now and they're like, first of all, meeting face to face, like why would you do that? Just send them a link. And then the thought of getting them on a Zoom, like, is there any pushback that you get on it, or are most people willing to follow?
Well, one of the benefits of being in the coaching organization I'm a part of is I have students and fellow coaches that are in all the major markets in America, Seattle, so I've heard everyone say, "Oh, you don't understand my market. My clients won't drive across town." And that is true for some people, but I just think you have to do your best to meet them face to face. I know a coach up in Seattle, and she's right downtown. So she told me she's meeting with 30% of her clients face to face. But if she gets a new lead, part of her process is she's going to FaceTime them on the
Mm,
first call.
wow.
So you just have to figure out how to make a connection with somebody. And so yeah, we do get pushback, but we just figure out how to make sure we make a connection. If we've got someone that's, let's say, moving into Northern California, but they live in Texas, and
Hmm.
I'm not going to be able to meet them face to face. We're going to try to make sure that when they come to town and look at homes with their realtor, we schedule a time for them to come by the office,
Hmm.
because the relationship piece for us is just so important. And honestly, part of my story, we can get into it, is I forgot that for a part of my career. We got so busy, we just started sending the link, and we were doing more loans than we could handle. And part of my story is over the last few years, I had to rebuild everything because I just could not figure out how to return to the basics.
Well, I have a feeling when we hear the story, we're going to get some takeaways because I know where you're at right now. It's pretty exciting. By the way, Sue Meitner, what is up? She put a five. She gave herself a five, and I interviewed her recently. It's a five. Like, she is outpacing her current goals. I have also done a number of interviews. Well, I interview loan officers every week, and the people I'm interviewing are adjusting their goals. Like, they're beating
Yeah.
what they expected, and they're like I'm doing the halftime report. Kristen and I are gonna start publishing that halftime report next week, and we're talking to a lot of people that, like, oh, I came into the year with this goal, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm increasing it by 10%. I'm increasing it by 20%. So level five success in 2025 is absolutely capable. It's just a
Yeah.
question of what is your strategy and how are you executing. Keith Collins, who will be a client of Deborah's, by the way, he gave you some really nice shout outs. He's like having the best year he's ever had. And this is a
You're
guy,
welcome. You're welcome, Keith.
yeah,
Just
right. And this is a guy that moved from Nashville 3 years ago. Or excuse
from
me, moved
California.
he
Yeah.
moved from Sacramento area to Nashville, so going on his third year, and he's having his best year ever. Now,
Nice.
not volume wise, because the 2021 year he had like a $120 million year, but if you look at just normal years in mortgage, he's having his best year. And one last thing before we go to your story, Chris, I want everybody to stop talking about how much volume you did in COVID. Like, stop thinking about it, stop talking about it,
Yeah.
like literally
It's
remove it.
baggage at this point, Dave, because people were like measuring their success to
Yeah.
those years, and now they've declined for some, and they have like this mental depression of sales because
Oh, I used to do this. Like, guys,
yes.
COVID bubble rates are not going to two again. And if they do, we have very big problems in America. Rates are going to be in the, hopefully they get in the fours again. I do think we'll have fives again. Well, I know we'll have fives again, but stop, really remove it from just like take it off the list. All right, bro. So story, tell us your story.
Yeah, well, first I want to touch on your comment about 2020 because I agree. We call it being a legend, right? None of us want to be a legend because that means our best days are behind us. And so it's all about what we're doing right now. And yeah, so part of my story, I've been a lender for 25 years. I started in high school, and
I was gonna say, there's no way you look so young.
I
You
know
wait,
I,
you
I
started the
actually
mortgage business in high school.
I was a junior in high school when I got into the work experience program and worked at a mortgage office, a broker in town. That would have been 2002, 2001. And the next year, senior year, graduated, stayed in the business. So I've been in the business a long time. Started as processing. I was there through the whole 2008 financial crisis. I still remember sitting at my desk and seeing loan officers freaking out because all the subprime lenders were closing their doors like dominoes. I remember all of that. It was a really amazing experience as a young man to see all of that and experience it with a front row seat. And so I started originating in 05, 06, and I'm going to skip through some of it because I want to talk about what's currently happening. And and then I got into coaching in 2011 because like a lot of people, I was doing pretty well. I was closing 5 or 6 loans a month, but I was so stressed out. I had no systems, no structure, sticky notes all over my desk. And I had recently gotten married, and my wife, I was just not present at all. And I have an amazing wife. And I remember her looking across the room one day at our house. I was sitting on the couch with a laptop with a Verizon card, if anyone remembers those back before Wi-Fi. And she was talking to me, and I wasn't really listening to her. And she finally got my attention. I looked up, she was crying, and she's like, "This is not what I signed up for." And at that point, I knew, I'm like, man, I either have to figure out how to do something different, or I'm going to have to go get a new career. And at the time, I had no college experience. It's like, I'll go to work at Costco or something. I'll figure something out. And it was at that time that I was friends with Jeremy, and he had exposed me to the core. And so that was when I got into the core and started learning about systems and structure. And I never really wanted to close 30, 40, 50 loans a month. That wasn't my goal. My goal was just to get some of my time back because I like my life and I do a lot of fun things. And but I was like, I got to figure this out. So skip forward to 2015. That was the first year that I made $1 million as a loan officer. Never thought it would be possible. And I pretty much did it every single year with the exception of last year. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But during 2020, like so many of us, I had to scale my business up because we were so busy. I have a big database. I'm doing a lot of the right things. So I get a ton of referrals. I was probably getting, there was one month we got 350 referrals. I think I personally closed 550 units that year. My branch did about 1,000 units, and we're in a really small market, mind you. I mean, there's 100,000 people in my town. So if there's someone in a small market, I have news for you. You can still do really well. And we'll talk more about that. But the last 2 years is what I really want to talk about, because there's a lot of loan officers that know how to scale their business up when things get busy and we get into a refinance market. But what I personally experienced was the last 2 years, I really struggled going back to the fundamentals of the business. I got entitled. I made a lot of money. I saved a lot of money. I'm super fortunate. But the idea of going back to some of the simple things that got me where I was, for some reason, that was hard for me. And there's
Like what items are you speaking to directly?
just calling 30 past clients on Thursday. For one, I hadn't talked to so many of them for so many years that there was this wall of shame. I don't know who they are. The truth is, I was ashamed because if I was honest with myself, there was a part of my career over the last 5 years where my clients did not get a great experience. And I was more interested in closing numbers, getting awards, and being recognized as a top producer than I was actually making sure people got a great experience. So I had to really go through this evolution over the last couple of years. The other thing I would say is there's so much noise out there about what it takes to be a successful loan officer in 2025. Now, I believe in AI. I use it all the time. I believe in content creation. So I'm not saying those things don't work, but I've seen so many people looking for the silver bullet or the shiny object because they're trying to avoid the hard, simple work that their numbers never go up and they're on the struggle bus, as you call it, Dave. And I think it's really important that people understand the fundamentals work, and I believe they're always going to work, no matter what technology does. So about 7 months ago, and I want to tell you guys this, 2 years ago, I moved companies. 2 years ago this August. And for those of you that have moved companies or are thinking about it, man, I don't recommend it. If you can work it out with your current employer, get whatever you need. Moving companies is very difficult, but I felt like it was time for me to do that. I had a great branch, a lot of loan officers that I'd brought up from no experience to making 500,000 a year. And about 3 months into that, my former company recruited all of my loan officers out of my branch.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm trying to rebuild my business. My numbers have gone from hero to zero. I mean, I'm closing 8 loans a month, but my overhead's incredibly high because I'm still trying to hang on to this old way of doing business. My P&L's totally upside down. I mean, there was one point we were $500,000 in the red on the P&L. I lose all of my people who I thought were diehard and would never leave me because I handed them a career. I raised them up, helped them get out of debt, buy homes. Some of my ops people, they took away as well. And I remember one day I was at my house, I was sitting in my sauna, and I was so stressed out. I was resentful, I was bitter, and I just had one of those moments where I realized, you know what? Like Deborah's hat, I am the problem. Like, I cannot blame anybody else for what I'm experiencing right now. The problem is inside of me. And I realized, like, I don't have to be a victim. I can do something about this. So that was that at that time, I just realized, like, I've got to change what I'm doing. I've got to figure out how to get my production back. Number one, I've got to get back to the fundamentals. And I just went on this journey of rebuilding everything. I am not really a process engineer, but I had to learn how to process engineer. We went through, my CRM that I've had for 16 years. I used Jungo. You guys probably remember Mike Gulitz with Mortgage Planner CRM. I go all the way back to Mike Gulitz. It was a gold mine for so many years, but I believe a CRM is either a gold mine or a dumpster fire. And at this point in my career, it was a dumpster fire. I had all kinds of workflows that weren't working. So we had to rebuild the CRM. We had to start tracking the data. I had to go out and repair a lot of relationships with realtors and referral partners. And it worked. It didn't work overnight, but I had to just remember, like, in this market, if you are going to create a plan, you have to be really consistent, and you cannot expect it to change overnight. Now, I have seen people go from 5 loans a month to 10 loans a month in 90 days with the right strategy. But for most of us, like, you have to be consistent for 90 days to 6 months with any plan before you can really measure the success of it. Now, you can see some indicators. You're heading in the right direction. Your leads are going up. Your conversion's getting better. You're getting better referral partners who are sending you better people, but it takes some time before those things flow into your production. So last year, about in November, we started really seeing things shift. My team was functioning better. We got the P&L under control. I recruited a few loan officers in. I want to talk about the loan officers real quick here. One of the things I learned in the last few years is I will never hire a loan officer again that is not going to do business my way. For so many years, I would take any loan officer, and because, again, I was so focused on the production, the numbers. I thought the culture was important, but it really wasn't that important if you're willing to take any loan officer, even if it means that they could mess up your culture, that they're not going to do business the way you think it should be done. But I'm in charge now. They're not coming here unless they do it my way. So we brought in a couple loan officers, and I'll get to that in a second. I got rid of some team members that weren't A players. I demanded more out of my current team members. We got our systems upgraded. And one of the big shifts I made was with partnerships. I wanted to move away from real estate agents that were high maintenance. And I wanted to find realtors that I had alignment with. And so we in the core, and lots of you guys and other coaching programs have very similar strategies, but we started executing whale campaigns where we figured out who is our best partner. And we built a list of these people, and we had a systematic approach to developing those relationships over about a 10-week period. And I did one after another after another. And, you know, today I have 10 or 15 new partners that I did not have 2 years ago. And they're all people that are fun to work with. It doesn't feel like work. We have a lot of alignment. We have the similar core values, and they refer me the way I want to be referred. And we have a reciprocal business where we all add a ton of value to each other. Because as a loan officer, and I don't know why I didn't catch this earlier on, like there's only so much of me, and I believe that I can add a lot of value, but I cannot add value to 100 realtors. And there was a year there where I had 200 realtors refer me in 2020. Like that's crazy, right? So why wouldn't I want to get 10 or 15 realtors that get, you know, that do 20 million a year to refer me most of their business? I can definitely be in relationship with 10 or 15 realtors. So I really turned my whole model upside down. And I just had the faith that, man, if I just do the fundamentals like I did a long time ago, the thing that got me successful as a new loan officer will help me become successful again. And guys, I'm really excited to tell you, this month I'm going to close 29 units. But what I'm most excited about is my loan officer who came to me, who'd been in the industry for 6 years. She's my newest LO. She had her best month last month. She closed 10 units. This month she'll close 10 units. Next month she'll close 11. And it's all because she's following the recipe. She's just coachable. And I've never had loan officers that were coachable. I've always hired loan officers that thought they knew it. And I was like, you know, here's a desk, just be compliant. And I was afraid to rock the boat because I had fear of loss. And one of the best things that came out of the last couple of years is I'm not afraid of losing anymore. I'm going to coach better. I wasn't a good leader because I was afraid. So I'll let you guys comment on some of that. I can keep going, Dave, but you know, that's been the journey of the last couple of years.
Well, wow. So first of all, congratulations. There was so much to unpack there. I mean, we could spend the rest of this, well, we could spend the next 2 hours just unpacking what you really shared. I do want to push the audience, the live audience, if you'd like him to answer a question. You know, I'm sure from what he was saying, there were things that you were like, you had a question after that, put that below. Deborah, before I ask the next question and unpack a few things, anything you want to unpack or ask?
Well, I just thank you for sharing your story and just the humility of, you know, realizing where you were at. I think it takes a lot of bravery and courage to sometimes rebrand or reposition yourself in a market that you may have soured a little bit, like with those relationships that you were
Mhm.
talking about. I mean, it's you want if you've broken trust and you're trying to earn it back, that's a lot of work. And so thank you for sharing, and just I hope it gives a light to those who may be on that struggle bus right now, and
Mhm.
you know, maybe this is your moment or your flag to own the problem. And you know, once you've lost everything, you kind of aren't insecure anymore because
Mhm.
now you're just building. And so it almost gives you that permission as soon as you own the problem and decide and make the decision like this, it doesn't have to be this way, and that
Yeah,
you're going to do something different. And so I just think you're a great example of that, and thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
you're welcome.
So a couple of things I want to call out. So first of all, I'm writing a LinkedIn post that I'm going to post either Monday or sometime next week, and this is the quote. I took a quote that you guys have heard me talk a lot about. You know, the illiterate of the 21st century. Although I'm going to say the illiterate of 2025. Like right now, I think this is a pivotal year in mortgage. Are not those who can't read and write, but they're those who cannot learn or unlearn the old way of doing things, which you just heard Chris. He had some things that needed to change. So he had to unlearn some old workflows. He had to upgrade some new technologies. And then you need to learn how to use AI and how to use Mortgage Coach. I truly believe those are two essential technologies. Although your CRM goes without saying. I mean, that is a, if you cannot execute leveraging technology, all the other things, you can't be present at scale with people. And then you need to constantly relearn the new best way to deliver value. And when I said I could have put deliver value to consumers, I could have said deliver value and convenience to borrowers. I specifically said homeowners because we are also at a point in time where we need to get closer than ever with other local referral-based real estate professionals. And you can just hear Chris, like he's doing that. Hey, I can't manage hundreds of realtors, but I can manage the right 12 or 20.
Mhm.
And then I just interviewed James Wiggins before I got on this call. He is the CEO of Next Home, which is the 20th largest real estate platform in the country with over 6,000 agents. And he was talking about how, you know what? Loan officers and realtors together need to start doing equity and annual reviews with consumers. Like if you want to rocket proof, Zillow proof your career, have really good strategic partnerships with real estate professionals and start together, going to consumers and going deep. So Chris, my question is, because you haven't been a mortgage coach forever, but I know Jeremy connected you and I about a year ago. What was your why you decided to adopt mortgage coach and make that part of your experience?
Yeah, so I love Mortgage Coach, but like I shared with you early on, we're still pretty new into it and trying to figure out the best ways to use it. But I do believe that if you're going to do a lot of loans, like 10 or more loans a month, you really have to have processes for everything. So every meeting, every appointment, the way that you deliver a pre-approval. And so we were really looking for a way that we could illustrate loan options, and Mortgage Coach is by far the best options to do that. Now, forgive me, Dave, because I'm sure it does so much more than what I'm using it for. But for us, it was really a way for us to give something simple to the client to understand their options, to see the numbers, because we all know the loan estimate is one of the most confusing documents ever made. And so the other thing I love about Mortgage Coach is when we talk about value and we talk about having the professionalism, I love the way that you can record videos and send it to people. I mean, I see how that has an impact on the client and their perspective on your office, your team. So we use it to deliver numbers, options to clients. We also use it on Zoom. If we're going to have a Zoom consultation with the client, we're going to share our screen and we're going to use Mortgage Coach because it's going to give the client a really simple way to understand what their options are. So that's what I'm doing with it. Of course, I know it does a lot more than that, but we use it for every single client right now, and it's helped a ton.
Love that.
Yeah.
Someone asked, and by the way, Glenn, I'm going to get to your question in a minute because Glenn wants to hear about your 10-week program to get partners that like you. But Paul asked, what is your AI strategy? Like, what are you doing with AI, and do you have a high level strategy on that?
I mean, I wouldn't say I have a high level strategy. It's almost like, where am I not using AI now? It works with. I still create content. I think Deborah, you mentioned Descript when we
Hmm.
first were. Yeah. So I mean, a lot of the different editing platforms use AI. I use ChatGPT all the time. So I mean, I'll use it to send an email. If I get upset or frustrated about something, I'll go to ChatGPT to clean up my email. And it's a great way to communicate. I save tabs for every type of scenario that I would have any sort of email for. Social media posts. If you're going to, I mean, I've been really seeing the power of the written word. The real world has gotten very competitive and it's really noisy right now. So I've seen a lot of people having success generating direct to consumer business and getting referral partners by having really clever, well written Facebook posts with the written word and maybe a picture, or LinkedIn posts. And so if you look at my Facebook, I mean, I've had a few posts where it's been shared 60, 70 times by realtors and some of my best clients, because I'll write something about what's going on with interest rates. And you could take a Resi Club article about Lennar, you know, cutting prices and incentivizing buyers to buy their homes and drop it into ChatGPT and say, write a clever article about this. I am a mortgage loan officer. My target audience is upper middle class buyers. Please write a Facebook post that's really well thought through. Use this article to get some data from, and it creates something that's amazing. That's just really well written. You can have humor in it. And, you know, so those are some of the things I do. Gosh, man, I don't know where I don't use AI anymore. It's just become such a big part of our daily job. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, yeah. I want to share a few thoughts on that. First of all, I would love this community. If you have one or two AI platforms that you're using most often to help you deliver value, convenience for consumers, and to just the most effective way of accomplishing something, like writing an email. If you have an AI platform that you're using, put it in chat right now. Let's just kind of like, guys, let's group learn. So we got Gemini. Um, I put a link to sign up for Hoozy because I'm a big fan of Hoozy because it's designed for realtors, and it uses chat. It uses Gemini. Like it's aggregated multiple AI platforms, and it's built workflows and strategies for the real estate industry and for mortgage professionals. So I'm a fan of that. I put a link to get a free trial. I use Perplexity, almost every day. I love Perplexity. And by the way, I use chat, just like Chris does every day. Deborah, what are a couple of your regulars? Remember, guys, we only have Michael sharing what he's doing. So and just started using Grok. Come on, like let us
I
know
mean,
what you're doing.
there's so many, and we've been diving into one creating the automated tasks so that, like Chris, you could have Chat GPT every morning send you the most current, maybe even
Mhm.
hyper local news articles or headlines, and then automating using your own instructions so it's already writing like you, but using it for task and then also custom, GPTs. The course that we're at Plug and Play, what we're investing in right now is learning how to get the LLMs to recommend our clients. So I think the future is not only visibility through social for social proof, but then also if I were to type in like who's the best loan officer in California, are you prepared and are you creating content where the LLMs will now be referring to you within chat or perplexity? So we're learning all the behind the scenes of that right now so that ultimately we can help our clients with their visibility.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because I don't know what the stats are right now, but I saw something not too long ago where, the percentage of people that are going to chat versus Google now, it's going
Yes.
up fast,
Yes.
so that's something that we all have to. I feel like ChatGPT is, I remember when Google first came out and like it was all about the organic. If you could get your
Yes.
website to rank organically before paid ads, like you were winning in your market. And I feel like this is definitely a similar era right now where we do have to pay attention to it. I mean, I don't think you have to necessarily be too far ahead with it, but you've got to understand that this is something that's going to disrupt
Mhm.
everything.
I
It
mean,
already
even
is.
Google now has the Google AI
Yep.
recommendation at the top. So
Yep.
that's why it's just so important in learning how, there's still a lot to learn with it, obviously. But if you're not on Reddit or Quora, like it's really being intentional with getting third party, unbiased
Yeah.
sites
Yeah.
referring to
Yep.
you. So,
And
There is one other thing I forgot to mention. Our company has created a couple custom chat GPTs for guidelines. So we have one for non-QM where you can ask it anything about non-QM guidelines. You can drop in, 12 months bank statements and it will do the calculation for you. So that is one of the coolest things I've seen. Is a lot of companies now are creating guideline GPTs where they've got Fannie, Freddie, non-QM, all the different aggregators where you don't necessarily have to have subscriptions to some of these other companies anymore. You can figure out exactly what you need as if you talk to an underwriter just by going to one of these GPTs. That's been helpful.
Yeah, no doubt. And I talk about it a lot because we're rolling out the Mortgage Coach AI TCA next week. I don't know if you knew this, Chris, but
I did not.
yeah. So your borrower, when they will starting in first week in July, Jeremy is one of the alpha testers. So there's a Sean Herrera is currently testing this. So we've got about 50 loan officers using it, but the consumer will be able to go to a mortgage coach and go like, if I'm going to live in the home for 5 years, what's the best option? They can either
Wow.
talk to the total cost analysis. Uh, which one is the lowest cash to close? Whatever question they have, what's my equity on option two in 38 months? Whatever question they have, like, boom, guys. So here's the deal. The goal, like if you are a modern mortgage advisor, you're looking to deliver value and convenience to homeowners. And so they can achieve the real goal, which is to build wealth with real estate and make their final payment become financially free is as early as they can. Like if you can be that financial freedom lender, like by the way, it may not be actually paying off the mortgage. It may, hey, I have enough money in investments that paying off my mortgage is a strategic financial planning decision. Whatever. But the goal of everyone in America is home ownership with financial freedom. So if you can be that person, you can find realtors that want to be the real estate peer. And then you guys can use AI in ways that creates convenience and efficiency and value.
Mhm.
You're rocket proof. You're
Yeah.
Zillow proof. You're good to go. Um, what by the way, what'd you think of that new mortgage coach AI?
I love it. I did not know you guys were putting that out. That is incredible. And it also made me wonder, like, what other places we're going to see that sort of feature, like with people's disclosures. Eventually, it's
Yeah.
probably going to be a part
Oh,
of every part of our process. But I love it. That's cool. That'll be
Yeah.
available next week, you said?
First week in January or July, first week in
I
July.
can't
So guys,
wait.
we're just weeks away. I can't add anybody else to the pilot at this program. You don't need to do anything. You will get it if you're an individual user. You'll get it. There are some companies that are like, hey, we need to do a little more compliance first. But so far, everybody is adopting it. And stay tuned. Within weeks, you'll have it. Um, Also, when the consumer's asking those questions, you will get a transcript of that. So you'll know what questions they asked. Here's a question that we're seeing come up a lot that I think is kind of interesting is, are these rates competitive in the marketplace?
oh,
So like we're training it so it's going to take that consumer back to you. It's not going to answer that question, and it's going to have them, hey, you need to talk to Dave. So it's running a little slow. It's an alpha, but just know that you'll know when people are asking whatever questions they're asking, and you'll be able to be more valuable to that consumer. And oh, here, by the way, it just popped up as I quit sharing, but please contact Dave Savage. So it's going to take them back to you, and you will know what questions are asked. So
That's
stay
perfect.
stay tuned on that.
I love that.
All right. So we are now in the third quarter, almost in the fourth quarter of this call. Let's make sure that the one question that came in around your 10-week program, uh,
Yeah.
what was the actual question?
I think they were asking about the whale campaign, the
Yeah,
10-week whale
yeah,
campaign.
break it down if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's give some tactics. So my production has I'm up 50% this year over last year, and the trends are going up every month. And it really has to do with a couple simple things. And none of this is going to be, new news to anybody, but we have to really get in these value-based relationships with people. And so there's two things that I would say move the needle the most the last year. And this is not just for me, this is for my students and a lot of other people I know who have had, are having great years, some of them their best year ever. The first thing is when you target whales, big realtors. For me, it's realtors that do 20 million or more a year. To be honest with you guys, I have shied away from mega teams. I used to work with a lot of them. That is not my ideal realtor anymore. My ideal realtor is someone who is also live and local, who is close to the money, meaning that they still meet with their clients. Now, it's fine if they have a couple showing agents, a transaction coordinator, but they do a by referral business and they're doing 20 million or more. One of the biggest things that students struggled with this year is like, how do I add value to a whale? They were afraid of calling these bigger realtors.
I was gonna say,
And
even just making the first call and knowing
totally.
what to say. Yeah.
Yep. So the campaign is very simple. You write down 5 whales in your local marketplace that do 20 million or more per month. You put down their cell phone number, and then for 10 weeks, you are going to call them, text them every single week. You're going to send them 2 videos over the course of 10 weeks, 1 personalized gift, and 1 card. And the goal is at the end of that 10 weeks, you will meet with 2 of them. So let's talk about that first call. We have a lot of whale realtors in our community. So we always ask them, he's like, hey, what would it take for a loan officer to get you to call them back? Now, the first thing a lot of people don't understand is that a lot of whales, when you ask them, we do it all the time. How often do loan officers call you? So many of them say, I don't get calls very often, because so many loan officers are afraid to call them, or they just assume that they're really in tight with somebody. I'm here to tell you that that is often not the case. So first of all, don't assume you think you know what's going on with somebody. Number one, they would say, hey, you have to be able to give me something of value that makes me interested, that you're going to help me. And what I found is so often loan officers are focused on what's in it for me instead of what's in it for them. So this is what I tell students. I'm like, this is somebody that could literally transform your business. They could send you 1 closing or more a month. Take your time and do some research on this person. Find out who they're friends with. Look at their Facebook page. Do you know someone at your school or your kid's school or at church that's friends with them? Call that person, do some research and find out what they like, what their personality's like, and then make that connection on the call. So you make these calls, you try to set an appointment. And then once you get an appointment, you're trying to figure out, how can I add value to their business? There's a couple of the coaches that told us a whale realtor is looking for one of 4 things or multiple. They either want a reciprocal based business, and we can talk about that in a second. They want introductions to big connections that could, like, I know a guy who does a lot of probate. If I know some probate attorneys that he doesn't know, that could be a huge game changer for his business if he can get in with a probate attorney, right? They may want help with co-marketing. They might want you to invest in some of their team events or a client appreciation party. If you know how to throw great events, maybe you help them do their first one, because that's something they're not doing and they're not retaining their past clients well enough. And the last one is they might need help with their team. You might be a better leader than them. You might have more skills with hiring people and retaining people and building culture. And so in that first meeting, you're really just trying to listen and get the realtor to talk. And you're trying to ask questions that will help you understand where the biggest holes in their business are. Now, remember, if I'm only working with 10 or 12 realtors, I have the time, I have the capacity, and I have the bandwidth to figure out how to solve their problems. But I'll never figure out what they are if I don't get that first meeting. So this is how we do this 10-week campaign. And I will tell you that, a lot of the students I've coached, when I've gone into them, the first thing they'll say when I say a reciprocal business is, well, I don't have any leads to refer. I'm like, well, then you must not be doing your job Tuesday through Friday, because if you're calling all your TBDs, if you're calling your past clients, and if you're calling business professionals every single day and you're adding value, you should be a referral making machine. And this is my experience, because there was a part of the last few years where I wasn't giving referrals. I give like 5 or 6 referrals a month now, or sorry, a week. I'm always focused on how to get my realtors paid. In fact, one of the things I started doing this year is if I hear a client that's moving out of state and they don't know who they're going to meet, who they're going to work with in, let's say, Sarasota, Florida, then I'm going to go into a couple of the threads that I'm in. I'm going to find the Michael Jordan realtor in Sarasota, Florida. And then I'm going to call one of my whales and say, hey, I'm going to make a three-way text with this realtor and you. Let's make sure you get a referral agreement so you get 25% of this client I'm referring to this person in Florida. So I went from like focusing on myself to really trying to figure out how to add as much value as I can to these partners. And once I started adding value to these whales, I just realized, man, I've been missing it my whole career. Like if I just focus on helping these guys get paid, helping them improve their team, helping them figure out how to fix their CRM because their CRM is a dumpster fire. And I just went through rebuilding mine. This is how we win whales. And I've seen a lot of students now who have done this, and it's probably been one of the biggest things in the core that we've all done in the last 2 years to change our business.
Love that. Tremendous amount of value. I do want to call out something that he said in terms of mobile numbers, because I put a lot of research into my session at last week's gathering event. So I was on stage with the head of lending intelligence for JD Powers, and we immediately followed the CEO of Rocket, the CEO of Redfin, and the CEO of Mr. Cooper. So big stage, 700 mortgage executives. How are we going to deliver value? And JD Powers has a lot of data supporting the fact that consumers will reward the lender that is giving value beyond the transaction. Like waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for them to call you and they're shopping for a mortgage, it's too late. So there was a lot of talk about click or tip to tail homeownership platform, or click to final payment homeownership platform. And I use the acronym from stage, write down WRCD. If you want to win going forward, you need to do what Rocket cannot do, and you need to do what Rocket can do. And by the way, and there's some things that they could do, but they're not going to do it.
Right.
And they got data, and they got mortgage professionals that, by the way, whether you believe it or not, they actually have a lot of really great human beings that work for Rocket, a lot of extremely great leaders that work for Rocket, very culture-driven organization. So do not underestimate your competition. But there's things, and by the way, Rocket's not going to call Tom Thomas. Like they're at scale, they're going to be putting in what people want to be called. They're not going to be calling someone who wants to be called James Jim. They're going to be like what people's friends call people. They're going to have that down. By the way, most mortgage professionals have not really executed well on that in their CRM. They might know that Tom's Tom, but they're still, sending Thomas. Now, but you mentioned the mobile number, and I want everybody to really you've got to get a mobile relationship with all your consumers. Like if you know their name, you know their mobile relationship, you can have a unique level relationship. And then also, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, Chris, I think it's never been more important that you need to get data that big data doesn't have. Like Rocket's going to have a lot of data, but they're not going to necessarily know what that consumer's assumption is as to what rates are going to do. Like, what do you think rates are going to do? They're not going to know that consumer's assumption. What do you think values are going to do? What rate of return are you getting on your investments? What's your biggest fear? What is your goal? Like, what is your goal when it comes to building wealth with real estate? So, guys, the big centralized platforms aren't going to know that. And it's really important that you, as a local referral-based professional, you know those data points. Chris, any thoughts on that? And anything you want to add to that little laundry list of how to, hyper-personalize, hyper-localize? Any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. The best question that I found to start a conversation with either a new prospect, a realtor, or a client that I haven't talked to for a while is, here's a couple of them. One of my go-tos is tell me your story. And I think it's a really personal question. And if you get
Love
people
that.
talking and they tell you about their family, and you hear so much. And if you just listen, tell me more. Tell me more about that. That's been something I've gotten a lot better at, is just trying to really get people talking, telling their story. I'll also ask people, if I'm doing past client calls, what are your goals for the year? What are you guys trying to get done this year? I'll
Love
also ask
that.
realtors that. I'll ask financial planners that, realtors that, because again, I'm trying to find a place where I can add value, even if it isn't me doing a transaction for them. I don't even care about that anymore, because I know if I do this enough, the transactions will be there. But those are things that a lot of our competition, they don't have. And in our CRM, we have all about you data. So we're trying to find out who their financial planner is, who their estate planning attorney is, who their CPA is, what do they have pets, what are their names of their dogs, what are their kids' names, what is their favorite restaurant in the market they're in. We want to have this important data so that if they send us a referral, or we want to show them appreciation, we can do something really personalized. And I honestly think those are the things that separate us from the big box lenders right now.
Yeah. And guys, a lot of you on this call, like what you've heard so far is not the first time you've heard these things, but I would tell you it is the most important time that you start executing on these things. And if you do execute on these things, one, you're going to be really richly rewarded and have, a lot of financial success. And you're also going to like your job as a mortgage professional better. Like I'll bet you,
Yeah,
Chris, that you have accelerated your joy of job since you've
100%.
retooled your business. Like, could you speak to that?
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that. I was thinking about that recently. I have found the joy for this business again. And I can't stand being around people that are negative about this business, because even in 2025, with all the disruption everyone's talking about, it's still an incredible business. And I see guys all the time that are crushing it and having fun. And one of the biggest things is they just have blinders on. They're not listening to all the noise. And we get to meet some incredible people. I mean, some of my best friends in the whole world are they were my clients. I do a lot of loans for pastors and worship leaders all over the country, and they become my hunting buddies. And it's been, I truly believe that the greatest currency we all have is relationships. And when you really understand that, and you can create a process for that as a loan officer, that is not only where you'll find the joy, but it is where the money is made. And I got off course a little bit for a few years, but I know that now. And I'm really grateful that things were hard the last few years, because that still works. And I'm just convinced of it. So
Love, 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 and thank you for the hearts, the reactions, guys. We're getting into the final mile of today's call. D Bird, anything you want to unpack or questions you want to ask?
Yes, I'd love to learn because there's a lot of loan officers to do all this work and they finally get the meeting with the agent and then they don't have either an onboarding strategy for the
mhm.
agent on how to send referrals or an incubation and like relationship growth strategy once they've earned that commitment. So is there anything that you do as like a repeatable month or cycle after that 10-week program to retain that relationship?
Yeah. Yeah. So the first thing you want to do is you want to create an onboarding process. You nailed it. And so I'll give you a couple ideas. If I send out a Friday market update with a video on rates, a loan that we saved, just to kind of continue planting seeds, and a little bit of market insight, put them on that list. Everyone goes on that list. Follow them on all socials. And for 30 days, put them on an Excel spreadsheet, comment on everything they post. Not in a weird way, but like in a really supportive. That's an amazing listing. Oh my gosh, does that, ask questions that people want their content to be seen. So support them digitally. That's a really good way to stay on their radar. Put them on your mailer list. And then make sure that you follow up with them. So those are some of the simple things. In your first meeting, you really want to understand what it is that they need that their other lender, whoever they're working with, cannot give them. So we had a poll with a bunch of big realtors, you know, people that are realtors that are making $1 million, $2, $3 million a year. And we ask them, once a loan officer gets a meeting with you, assuming you already have a lender that is solid, what would they be able to do to get an opportunity to earn that relationship over a 6 month to 1 year period? And it was very simple. They said, ask me where I'm struggling, and if there was anything that I could do to help you make more money or to solve a part of your business, what would that be? And listen to what they say and move heaven or hell to figure out how to do it. It's that simple. And remember, that's hard to do if you're working with a realtor that closes 5 deals a year. They have a lot of needs, and I cannot meet all of them, and neither can you. But if you have someone who's doing 100 transactions a year and 65 of them are buyers and they are all by relationship, and if they refer them, that client's coming to you on a silver platter, how much would you do to figure out how to solve their problem or help that realtor make more money? And it's not going to happen overnight, but you listen in that meeting and you call Dave or you get on a chat with loan officers and you get out there and you figure out, like, I had a really good meeting with a realtor. This is what they said they needed. I don't know how to solve this. Does anyone have any tips or technology suggestions on how I can create value for this partner? Does that make sense?
Makes lots of sense. So guys, I'm gonna share a few thoughts in less than a minute, and then Deborah, if you could be ready to do the win by noon close to today's call to make it actionable. But if you saw Deborah's shirt, it says "No bar left behind." That's been a central theme of Mortgage Coach, Sales Boomerang, Trust Engine. We have another thing that we're really serious about: no loan officers left behind. Like we want to help local referral based mortgage professionals, the ones that want to be really valuable to consumers, that want to go beyond the transaction. Like, we want you to be rocket proof. And I want you to think about what her hat says. I am the problem. And really, like,
It's a walking billboard today.
yeah, no, it's not interest rates. Like, if you are not hitting your goals and you are not winning, you could be. There's enough evidence of success that people that are doing the right things, they have a CRM, they're asking the right questions, they're process driven, they're not just delivering a fee worksheet, they're delivering a mortgage coach experience. They're winning. And so you can too. Like, there's a lot of different, like, some people win with builders, some people win with realtors, some people win, like, there's a lot of ways to win, but not having a system, not having a process is not how you win going forward in the space. So, and I think Chris is just a great story. I mean, listen to that. He said you're up 50% over last year.
Mm-hmm.
He's closing 29 loans this month. And he told you his story. He went from I had lost my way to I made standards. I managed partnerships to those standards. I, again, what an incredible story. Deborah, close us out.
The biggest takeaway from this call, just to put like a little bow on this, is, and I can't remember who said this, but the magic is in the work that you're avoiding. And so we are almost at that halfway point. I think if we all loved ourselves enough, which means also holding ourselves accountable, we probably already know what things we're avoiding. That if we just got disciplined and we had a plan, and notice how Chris said you have to work the plan consistently. You know, it's not like I'm going to go to the gym every day, but then go home and eat donuts and wonder why, I'm not gaining muscle mass. Like, you have to stick and be fully committed to the plan and be committed to it long enough to start seeing the results. Because too often I feel like loan officers will give up, or they start to get business and then they fall off the rails because, they're getting all this business and now they're in their files. So really take this next week and reflect. Do you have process and systems built around courting the partners that you want to work with? Do you even know who those partners are in your market center? And then what is your strategy to incubate and nurture the relationships that, even if they don't choose you as their lender, how are you showing up and being intentional and connecting and showing empathy and looking at people in the eyes, just like on a Zoom or a FaceTime? Because there's something to be said about when someone looks at you in your eyes and says, and gives the commitment like that, there's a little bit more stickiness there. So use this week, reflect, take notes of what you're avoiding, and then guys, have hope and faith in yourself that you too can re-fall in love with this business.
Love it, love it, love it. So guys, I put my text club in here. It's free. Join it. 949-799-0837. I'm all about no loan officers left behind. If you are a manager or leader, get into that free community. I also put a link to get the Modern Mortgage IQ assessment. Like, it's a little 5-minute process. It's free. It's great for coaches and leaders. Chris, if you have not taken that assessment, a lot of core coaches have done that. Jeremy, he's done it, shares it with some of his coaching clients. Also, there's a community called Modern Mortgage IQ. I put a link to a free trial. So hopefully y'all got value. Chris, dude, this is absolutely not the last time we're going to create content together and bring leadership. It's really an honor to get to know you, and you're just
Thank you.
great, great leader in the industry. Reading is lucky, and that phrase, "be live and local." I'm gonna say I got it from you one time, and then I'm gonna just use it.
We all got it. We all got everything from someone else.
Yeah,
but it
live and
just
local, baby.
passes around. Yeah.
Live and local. Let's go.
Yep.
All right. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,
This is a
guys.
wrap.
Appreciate you.
Later, everybody.
Bye-bye.